Yep, that's me. You're probably wondering how I ended up in this situation.
Considering this is my last race for this Makuri May, I would have expected things to go well. But then again, it wouldn't be my channel if something didn't go wrong at some point. So, as you saw from that initial clip, I ended up losing or getting disconnected from Zwift momentarily. And I will talk about that when that moment comes up. But for now, this is the final stage of Makuri May, the Three Villages loop. And it's a fairly reasonably flat stage. From the beginning, I ended up um, going from the mid to low 400s in terms of my Zwift racing score to 507, where I'm at for this race. As you can see, I'm in the 510 to 650 category, and the reason why I'm in that category is because my category was basically empty, and so I saw there was like 30 something people signed up for this race, but as you can see, 30 something people did not show up for this race. Only 16 showed up for this race. And so I knew that, with 16 people, I still had a shot at doing well, even though I'm in a category up. And so I'm on my SL8 with the Zip 858 disc wheels, which might not seem like the smartest choice for this stage, considering that climb through the village. But I wanted to go for it anyways, because I was like, you know what? It's going to help me with that long downhill descent and the valley and kind of maintaining my pace with the group. So I wanted to go for it. And at the end of the day, any um, any extra effort that I have to put into carrying the discs uphill ultimately will translate into some gains down the road. And so as we get on, you see that early on in the race, Mark, who's got a fantastic channel. I highly advise you check his channel out if you don't already subscribe to his channel. He was in the race as well, which I was excited to see. But at the same time, I also knew that if Mark was going to be in the race, then I am most definitely going to lose on these climbs because he is a fantastic climber and a great racer. And so I knew that, going into this, I was like, all right, well, I guess it'll be a fight for second place then, if I make it to the finish line with the front of the group. And so as always, that's my goal, is to stay with this front group and get to the finish line with them, so that way I can be competitive on the sprint. But Zwift had other plans for me this time around, so I'm gonna jump forward because basically from here on out, from here until the top of this climb, we really just kind of stayed together. And that first climb up up through these hills and castle, or I guess, yeah, castle area, and the villages, it was pretty tough with the disc wheels. I got to say, it's a little bit harder than I thought. But I've ridden the disc wheels a couple times in different capacities, and I do feel like that initial burst when it comes to bridging gaps as well as sprinting, that initial few seconds, it does feel like faster you get faster momentum, and better speed. And so I want to continue trying these wheels out on races in order to see how they perform. So like I said, I'm going to jump forward a little bit, and we will take it from there. And so now, 6 kilometers later, as we're over the top of the hill already, I'm at the point where I'm like, all right, we're kind of cruising. We'll see how this race goes. I went into this race thinking like I should try a breakaway to see how far I can get away. A lot of these racers don't know me, um, since this isn't the category that I normally race. So as you can see, I gave a little attack. Went off about 6 watts per kilogram, and just I wasn't planning on going ultra hard, but at the same time I wanted to stay in my 20-minute power zone, so 3 watts, 3.5 watts around there, to see how far I can get out. And so far, I've got about 3 seconds on the group. It doesn't seem like anyone's really responding at this point, but I'm just, kind of looking at how far I'm out, what kind of gap I have. and whether or not I see any orange numbers. And so far I've got a 4 second gap, feeling good about it, thinking, okay, now it's 5 seconds, thinking, can I continue to, can I continue to press it? Can I continue to push forward and, get the momentum? Like I said, being on the disc wheels, I was like, all right, maybe the disc wheels will give me the advantage to do a breakaway like this and get out as far as I can. And again, I'm, about 4 to 5 seconds, off the front of the group. Um, but as I start getting through this, I'm starting to feel like, all right, this is a little bit much. My heart rate's in the 170s. I'm holding, in the mid threes, watts per kilogram. I'm not getting that far away. And the group is now starting to little by little reel me back in. They didn't put a lot of effort, but you can see there's a few people that, push to the 5, 6 watt per second, 7 watt per second, uh, 7 watt per kilogram, to kind of start to pull me back in. As I saw that, I was like, all right, they got me within 2 seconds. So let me just start to back off the power, and ease on back. You see someone there in the orange, orange numbers in the 8, 9 watt per kilogram. And so they definitely, wanted to not only bring me back, but and then kind of push on themselves. So I end up jumping onto the back of this person's wheel. And I've got to say, this is where ladder racing has absolutely changed the way I race. Because in a scenario like this, where I just went off the front, stayed off the front for a few minutes, and now someone, came flying past me, I could easily jump on their wheel and hold their wheel. Previously I would have to like, launch a parachute to pull me back so that way I can get some rest and then, do my best to catch on to the back of the peloton. But not anymore. Not anymore. That's what ladder racing has done for me. And so jumping forward again, we basically stayed together the rest of that, through the valley and then onto the hill again. And on the way up the hill, I started pushing a little bit hard on that first half. I wanted to stay towards the front. I wanted to do my best to put enough pressure to separate, to start, peeling the group apart. Again, there are 15 riders right now in the group. Not a lot of, not a lot of people. I don't know, not a lot of familiar names other than Marky Mark. And so I knew that, if I could push hard, maybe Mark and I can kind of start to get away. But as you see, everybody's still together. We're not going very fast on this, middle section in between the bottom half and top half of the climb. And as we start to come around, um, you see that one person launched their feather, which I would imagine that was a mistake for them to launch it when they did, because there's really no advantage there. And so as we start to hit the start of this climb, everybody just disappears. And I initially started to panic a bit, like, what's going on? What happened? Did my internet disconnect? Did I lose power? Now, at the time, there was a massive storm that came through my community. I could see from where I'm at. There's a couple times where I looked to my left, and obviously you can't see it, but what I'm looking at is the trees blowing really hard, the branches of the trees kind of breaking off and flying, everywhere. And I was like, all right, here we go. At any second, I'm going to lose power and my race is done. And this is my last opportunity to do this race. And I'm already tired because I've had a crazy week. And so I was doing my best not to overly panic. And that's really the best advice I can give in a moment like this is don't panic. Just keep spinning your legs, just keep turning as long as you feel the resistance. If you have your training difficulty up, as long as your avatar is moving and your momentum's going, just keep pedaling. Keep on the power, because you don't know when you're going to reconnect and where you're going to pop up. And so thankfully I didn't it didn't air out on me. It just, kept me going. So I used my feather there just because I was like, all right, I've got to use it at some point. That's the place where I wanted to use it anyway. It's the longest, steepest section of this climb. And so as I started getting to the top, I saw the disconnect banner go away. And that was about a good 2-ish, 3 minutes of, internal panicking. I'm still not seeing anyone pop up on the screen yet, but I did see the disconnect banner go away. And so at this point, I'm getting to the top of the climb, starting to kind of mentally think about where I'm at. Am I ahead of the pack? Am I behind the pack? What is it going to look like when everybody starts popping up on the screen? And I saw the list start to populate, and I saw I was 12 seconds behind. And oh my goodness, did that panic set in, because now I knew that it was no longer a it was no longer a race of me like staying in the peloton. It was now I needed to put it in B for boogie and catch up, and I needed to catch up as quickly as possible. And so I ramped up the power to, my basically trying to maximize my 5 minute power, staying in the, 4 ish, 3.5 watts per kilogram, um, and just trying to hustle as best I can. And again, this is where these disc wheels, I believe, came in absolutely handy. I know that on the NV89s, I wouldn't have lost a lot of time in terms of performance, versus the disc wheels, but at the same time, I'm very glad I was on the disc wheels. Now you see, I'm having to, push as hard as I can for 10, 15, 20 seconds, and then kind of pause for a little bit, just kind of let my legs rest. Again, I just came off the back of that climb, pushing as hard as I can. Now, naturally, I think I would have probably fell off the back, given the way the Peloton was going. But because of the way things happened, I've just committed to getting onto the back of this group. And so as I start to get a little bit closer, I'm, 10 seconds in, again, my legs are hurting, feeling the pain, holding, 4+ watts per kilogram, trying to get up over these little tiny, 2, 3% climbs as quickly as I can, to minimize the amount of time. And I start to see the shadow of the group in front of me in the horizon. And so when I start to see that, I'm like, all right, I can do this. I can get back onto the wheel. Because at one point I was like, all right, I'm 10, 11 seconds out. I'm not going to catch them. They're going too fast. And then, I gave myself another little push, and I took another second off the time. And so I was like, all right, I can do this. I can catch up. I know they're on the horizon. And so I kept seeing basically the reflect, or not the reflections, but the light from the Tron bikes, and the lightning wheels, whoever had that. I kept on seeing that in the distance. So I was like, all right, I can do this. I can do this. I can catch, I can catch back on. And so I've got 8 seconds right now, on the group, and just, you know, getting closer, 7 seconds now. And so I'm just trying to push as hard as I can. And again, if you haven't seen the Ryan Condon video where he talked about, 1 minute, 5 minute, 20 minute power, this is where your 5 minute to 20 minute power comes in handy, because this is an effort that you'll see on the time, on the time marker. Since I'm not fast forwarding through this, it's taken me a few minutes. I don't know exactly how many minutes it's taken me. Maybe I'll go back in post and add it in editing mode. I'll add in the time it took me to catch back on. But I'm pushing, and you see, there's an attack off the group, 400+ watts, according to Sauce. And again, I'm still 4 seconds back, and I haven't caught them yet. So, we're going a little bit downhill. Thankfully, the group didn't really, they were pushing, but they weren't pushing hard enough to truly not let me catch up. And so as I'm, getting closer to that 2, 3 second mark, I start to back off the power a little bit. I'm holding, 4 watts, and, pushing up on the gears to kind of give that last little bit of kick. But at the same time, what I don't want to do is push really hard and then fly through the group. And so I'm trying to modulate my speed and my pace, so that way I can, you know, start getting into their draft and then coast that last little bit into the back of the group. And so as we hit the bridge, um, because of that 1% downhill, I end up coasting through the group anyways, which I don't know if anybody noticed that I wasn't on the back, but I can tell you that I was absolutely relieved when I caught on to this group and ended up kind of rolling through them, because I was exhausted. But I was also glad that not only did I fall off the back, but I caught back up, and now I'm in a position where if I have enough energy, I can contend the sprint and potentially, win this final stage. And what a comeback would that be if I could win this stage? And so as we make our way across the bridge, nothing's really happening at this point. People are just staying together, which I'm so thankful for, because if you look at my heart rate, I was, probably well into the 180s, coming down right now into the 160s, and holding steady. And I'm hoping for, this group to kind of do what most Zwift races do, which is, stay steady for the last couple kilometers until about Some people will try and push on the 1 kilometer mark, but for the most part, people will push as far as they can and try to get into that 400 to 300 meter range before they start launching their sprints. I like long range sprints, and so I know that if I can get the peloton to about 600 700 meters, then I can launch a sprint from there and just hold on until I can't, until my legs just give out. So as we start to come closer to the 2 kilometer mark, you see the group is using their momentum to just kind of keep going. We're not really, again, no one's really pushing, no one's attacking. We're all together just holding tight, and you see one person now off the front, 14, look like those 14 watts per kilogram off the front. So super strong, strong sprint off the front. But thankfully the group started pushing a little bit harder, um, which ultimately allowed us to kind of stay on that person's wheel. You see another person, 11 watts per kilogram, pushing up. And so I just kind of ramp up the power a little bit. I wasn't going to try and sprint to catch up to the front, but I was just staying on the wheels so that way I can stay with everybody's momentum. And so as most Zwift races go, everybody's momentum pulls the group forward, and now we're all back together again, with a little bit of a spread and a little bit of wattage. We're not slowing down much, but at the same time, we're also not seeing someone roll off in the distance. And so I've got about a second between me and the front of the group, which I know is not ideal, but at the same time, it's not I'm not in any dangerous territory right now. And so as we start to roll through, we hit that 1 kilometer mark, and I'm just doing my best to kind of ease my RPMs so that way I don't want to roll off the front. We got 900 meters to go. And a couple people are starting to just kind of push a little bit, not much. You see 3, 4 watts per kilogram. So nothing major, but at the same time, not slowing down whatsoever. And as we start to hit that 600-meter mark, that's when I'm starting to think about, all right, what's going to happen? Who's going to do it? And you see, the group bubble attack light up with an attack. So someone starts to launch off the front, and so I launched my sprint as well with about 400 meters to go, and I start to push forward. I don't have a power up at this point, but I'm not worried about that because again, I don't really need a power up to sprint. And so I start to catch up to this rider, H Wound, pass him, and I'm at this point thinking like, oh, I'm gonna do it, and then I get passed by a bunch of people, and so I end up getting passed, not only by Mark, but a handful of others. I somehow managed to get the sprint jersey, which was exciting, but at the same time, I came across the line in fifth place, and I've got to say, considering I lost 12 seconds to a disconnect, yet another mechanical in a string of mechanicals, um, which thankfully it wasn't my virtual gears losing resistance this time. At least it was just a disconnect because of the weather. And thankfully, Zwift picked it back up right where I left off. And so I lost 12 seconds, regained those 12 seconds onto the group, and almost podiumed on the final sprint. I am very happy with my performance, especially since I was riding in a group up than what group I was supposed to be in. And so lots of strong riders in this race, and I've got to say it was a fantastic event. So again, if you haven't checked out Mark's channel, feel free to check it out. I will put a little pop-up banner for it, and hope you guys enjoyed, and I will catch you guys on the next race.
Hey guys, it's Miguel from That Thing You Just Watched. Hope you enjoyed that video, whether it was topic on nutrition or racing or a combination of both. Feel free to come back. I will continue to put out videos like this and continue to showcase what you can do with smart nutritional strategies, combining that with racing, because that is what this channel is all about. And feel free to check in if you want to see more racing. Click on wherever the link's at, subscribe, and I will catch you guys on the next race.